This is Melissa Thomas for Florida National News, here with the one and only Mr. Randy Ross, who was the Orange County Chair for the Donald Trump campaign. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I know you guys are in the process of planning for Mr. Trump's appearance here on Friday. Yeah. So we appreciate the time for the one-on-one interview. I mean, let's start out from the beginning. I mean, what first got you involved in the Trump campaign, and then not only to be involved perhaps as a volunteer or someone that's involved in the campaign, but to be the chairperson for Orange County?
You know, I at the first, I actually reached out multiple times to the Orange County Republican Executive Committee because I had heard they were looking for a chair for Orange County. So like email, phone calls, the whole 9 yards. And got on the phone and I contacted Joe Gruters, who was the state co-chair for the Donald Trump campaign. He's a state house representative now and also a member of the Republican Party board of Florida. It would take a couple of weeks, and I'm sure a few phone calls, but Joe would help us to get this organized and give us the green light. That very first meeting we had in December of 2015, long story short, is we had over 100 people. That's more people than normally attend most meetings. And I realized something was happening there. We had an opportunity to engage. You got to remember, in Orlando, Florida, Orange County specifically, there are over 370,000, some crazy number when it comes to Democrats, 217,000 or so independents, and then we have a smaller number of Republicans. So winning Orange County was never the primary objective. It was neutralizing the waters and making sure we could do the best that we can. And so I feel like, you take us through the journey of trying to get to 1237, which was huge. Let me go back. Let me take us through the journey of getting the nomination. We were doing whatever it took, sign waving events, phone calling, door knocking, all those things. When they said we had no ground game, it was frustrating to me because traditionally we're not really supposed to be allowed to speak to the media. So I really couldn't say, by the way, it's not like that, right? And so, but obviously those efforts were working. And people were tired of traditional politics. They were tired of, the average person that is saying, by the way, are you listening to me? Mm-hmm. And so we do get the nomination, and we do get to 1237. It's an amazing gift. And, and I knew all along we were going to get there. I just don't know if everybody else felt that same energy. Now we have Hillary Clinton as our nominee that we're going against. And certainly in a county that is as upside down as this one is, that was frustrating. The gift I had in this process was, I believe it was September of this year, where I got to introduce the candidate. I got to remind him that, or that audience, and I guess some now 22,000 folks later that have watched the video, that I was an openly gay man that happened to be Republican that was going to support this candidate, because I believe, more importantly, that I knew many people on the campaign that were gay. I knew many people that worked for Mr. Trump that were gay. And you know what? He didn't care about our sexual orientation. He cared about America. He cared about Americans. In this house that we're in tonight, my house, I remember waking up on that June day when the Pulse attack had occurred. I woke up to the helicopter noise. I woke up to the text messaging. People, I hadn't been at that club in years, but people assuming that I must have been there, right? And when it was all said and done, what a lot of people don't realize is that Mr. Trump was ready to come to Orlando within a week. He didn't come in like President Obama did and Vice President Biden, making this a gun control issue. He wanted to come to Orlando to be here and talk to families. When his daughter-in-law and Diamond and Silk and others came into Orlando as part of the women's tour towards the end of the campaign, we tried to keep that private, and we couldn't keep that private. You can't keep anything private in politics, And so it's been an interesting journey. The thing that I look back on is, when you have over 1,300 volunteers, which is what we have here in Orange County, you're going to have a few that like what you're doing and a few that don't. But more importantly, how do we wrangle those folks? How do we bring them into the process in the future so that people, whether they are of color, Hispanic, blacks, gay, Asian, whatever, they have to feel that the Republican Party cares about them. And so I think the future of Republican politics in Orange County and politics in general in this town rests in how our candidate and now our president-elect handles those issues. You know, he has got to reach out to them. You can't wait until the end of the road and say, I want the black vote. You know, I want the Hispanic vote. And I believe he's already sending us an indication that he's going to be a little bit better at that. I mean, he would not put a person that is openly gay in this position. I think I'm one of the only openly gay candidates or persons that were on the entire process. I don't think he does that if he really fears that they're going to jeopardize those communications and opportunities that need to exist in communities all over this town and all over towns all over this country. And so I am hopeful. I'm excited. I look forward to being there on Friday when it's time for us to once again organize for him and bring people together that get a chance to say how wonderful he is. And more importantly, I look forward to being there January 20th when he is sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. I won't, be up there right behind him. I'll be there right back there in one of those other seats. But that's a gift. That's an opportunity. And that's what I look forward to.
Given where we are now, he is now the president-elect. What is next for you?
Well, it's no secret that I have applied for a position with the administration. My 2 cents are, my skill set is in the General Services Administration, so I applied for there. But I would love to be able to be in a position with our president-elect and his administration that opens the door for the LGBTQ community to realize that this president cares about them. So I hope to get into a position eventually, whether I'm still here as a chair in 2020 or eventually get a role in the administration. I want to be able to remind people and give them hope that that the Republican Party is not against
Donald
them.
Trump.
And I got to meet him behind the scenes multiple times. I got to talk. I mean, one of the biggest gifts I ever got. Was a call from Donald Trump Jr. And he called because he was like saying, Randy, you're like a superstar. And what he didn't realize is I was just one of those people. There were so many here. I have to give all the credit, to those volunteers that stood on street corners and got flipped off, and all those people that were attacked on Facebook and all those people that really did everything they could to try in their belief to protect America. That's what they were doing. It wasn't so much about her. It was so much about what we've become almost conditioned to do. I'm excited this year to say Merry Christmas. I'm excited to be able to know that we can finally find a way back to some of those spaces. Listen, as a black woman, I respect you. I love you. I respect all people of all cultures and races, and I was brought up that way. Somewhere in the process, we got into this space where we decided that we had to hide our Christianity and our beliefs and everything else. I think this year is a gift because we get to finally talk about everybody, everything, the wonderful spaces that we're in. And while some people would like to say that President-elect Trump is a divider, give him time. I think he's going to unite us in ways that we haven't. Just like he said, what do you have to lose? I say to all communities, whether they be Hispanic, Black, Asian, or gay, what do you have to lose? We have a chance here. This is not about trashing President Obama. This is about elevating someone that ignited a pulse in our country we have not seen in years. I look back on my life and I say, I don't recall that level of energy. There's 2 times when Reagan was running and when Obama was running. You saw this groundswell. Wow. But whenever you go too far in one direction, something shifts the other way. And the conservatives, a lot of people have, made fun of the fact that I used to be a Democrat. Listen, I was a Republican until 2002. I switched over to be a Democrat because when I came out at 36, I said, you know what? I got to gravitate towards the party I think's protecting me. What I realized is my root and what I was most interested in still was resting in the Republican Party. I cared about a lot of the things that they were talking about. So now what we do, moving into 2020, And I think that's where we're headed at this stage. Listen, Orange County did go blue again. It hasn't been red since 2000. That's 16 years. It's been a Democratic town. That doesn't change overnight. Osceola County, very, very similar to this. We barely won Seminole County by 1.5%. If the shift does not take place, the I-4 corridor is up for grabs. Certainly in 2020, Trump will be up for re-election. You know, he may decide, I've had it 1 year, I'm done. 4 years, I'm done. One term, I don't know. The other part of that is we need him for 8 years, in my opinion. I think that he's got some gifts that we need to absorb into our country. So I think we have to focus on giving him an opportunity to take it through to 2020. I want to be part of that. I'm on board, Mr. Trump, to be your chair in 2020 in Orange County. I'll do it again. I'm excited about Friday. That thank you tour is critical to this community to remind us that he appreciated the work that not only did our 1,300 plus volunteers do here in Orange County, but all of the counties throughout the state of Florida. It's important that he comes and says thank you. No president's ever done it before, no president-elect anyway. And I think it's a wonderful gift for us.
What kind of initiatives would you put in place to build that bridge for the LGBTQ community to kind of embrace the Republican Party?
I think in so many ways, I've already tried to do that through social media, but I believe what we have to do is put people in positions, even if it's not myself. But we saw that the CEO of PayPal is now part of the transition team. You know, gay people are not lepers. They're not crazy. They're not pedophiles. They're regular people. You know, I just happen to be gay. It doesn't define me. And I also am a Republican. And I don't believe the Democratic Party any better protects my rights than the President-elect Trump and his administration, as well as the Republican Party does. It's so funny because, you know, I've got a very diverse group of friends on Facebook. Some are very conservative. Some are very liberal, but I've also got drag queens and I've got elected officials. And it's so funny. Many of them agree that President-elect Trump is best for most of us. We have our work cut out for us, especially here in Central Florida. But if President-elect Trump does a portion of what he said he's going to do, a lot's going to change in the next 4 years. People are going to probably switch parties and come back to the Republican Party, or at least when it's time to vote, they will vote for President-elect Trump once again.
There's a specific, very awesome incident that you guys had with the bus tour that came here, and you guys were able to serve in the Pine Hills area. Kind of speak to how that came together.
You know, originally the women's bus tour, it wasn't just in Orlando. It had happened in different states, especially states that Mr. Trump was focusing on. But the whole concept here is that it was going to be Laura Trump and Diamond and Silk and some of those other folks that were involved in that were going to come to Orlando. Well, then all of a sudden we had something that happens here in Florida. We had a hurricane. And so they had this amazing bus that was, you know, trumped up, if you will. It was branded with Governor Pence and Mr. Trump on it. And they said, Randy, what do you want to do with it? And so I had a number of volunteers, and I was sitting around a room when this call came, and they said, you know, why don't we gather up water, Gatorade, et cetera, and take it around and deliver it. And we didn't still know what that meant at that stage. And so all of a sudden they gave us like a minimal budget, and we're going to Costco, and people are taking their pictures and all these different things. And I happened to be on the phone with one of my friends at the time over that lived in the Pine Hills area. And we had stopped, and you know, this is going to sound even worse. We had stopped to get like fast food. We were starving. We're in this space over in Pine Hills, and I'm like, maybe we should come over there. And it was a government housing situation, and it was not planned. There was no press release that went out, anything like that. We had an amazing bus driver, and we backed this 45 foot bus into this space. It was an amazing opportunity. It warmed my heart to watch how they really cared that we were doing this for them. You know, I think he's an amazing compliment to our president-elect. And I think many conservatives feel the same way. I mean, he was very gracious to me when I went to the RPOF event over in Tampa, him and his wife. And I'm excited to see him in that position.
You speak very eloquently and very passionately about politics. So kind of speak to that passion. Why is that your fuel, and what first drew you to it in the first place?
You know, when I was a kid in Indiana, my mom, Betty, was a poll watcher. And I didn't know what the heck that meant. I was like, what does that mean? And I remember her spending hours and hours. And back then, it was probably even more important back then to be a poll watcher because we were still filling things out, with hands and things like that. A little different than pulling levers. I think it was pulling levers back then, right? And so I kind of got the touch of it then. My mom was the clerk of the town that I lived in. My sister is the clerk of courts, in the area that she lives in up in Indiana. And I think somewhere it just kind of lights this fire and this fuel. I wake every day wishing I didn't care, and then all of a sudden one of my friends will call and we'll have a conversation. I'm like, oh, what did you think about that? And what do you think about that? It's gossip. I mean, it's political gossip. But the thing about it is it's what runs our world. It's what runs our country. It's what runs our towns. Politics at a local level is far more powerful than any politics that exists. And so I look around and I watch it, and sometimes I'm excited by it. Sometimes I'm embarrassed by it. Sometimes I'm saddened by it, because I don't believe all the great people always win. I think that it's been one of those experiences where I often say I don't want to do it ever again. I don't want to run a campaign. I don't want to run for office. And then someday, somehow, something comes up and I'm like, okay, I'm not really done with the fight. I think in many ways I'm better behind the scenes than I am being that front person. I have all kinds of ammunition you can come at me with when I'm in front of the situation, but behind the scenes I kind of feel like I can guide people on the most simplest of things. I was able to pull on all my life experiences as a community organizer and as a person that had been involved in marketing and advertising pretty much all my life. I was able to say, okay, we got to do this. We got to do this. We knew what we had to do, whether it was opening the offices, making the phone calls, knocking on doors, all those different things. We did something that nobody thought we could do in the country or in the world. We got Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. And you can't, no matter how you slice it, you can't take away that victory. And that will be something that I live with in a positive way the rest of my life.
Speak to that next person that may be considering joining the campaign or who might consider getting into politics. Like what would be your best advice for someone that's new to it, that's gauging whether or not they want to really go all in?
I tell people all the time, part of it is building bridges and mending fences. Because by the time you get to a place in life, unless you're going to run when you're 21 years old, you've had obstacles. You've had friendships that have fallen apart. You've had life experiences that haven't gone as well as you want them to be. And you have to, when you decide you're going to jump into that arena, everything is subject to observation and criticism. Sometimes there are things that come up. And sometimes what happens is some of these political operatives will throw something up against the wall, and if it sticks, great. And if you have to spend your entire campaign defending something that didn't even happen, it's the way it works. But if your heart's in it, and if you're willing to do what is necessary to win, you will win. Most people that probably have their life together and are perfect will never go down that political road because of the criticism, because of the putting your life. It's like running around. I say to people all the time that ask me about running for office, it's like running around with your clothes off all the time. And people are pointing and laughing and they're, making all these statements. But if it's God's plan that you're supposed to be doing this, and sometimes that's really what it comes down to, you will do it, and you will do it successfully. I suggest that they surround themselves with people that really are... Actually, I suggest they surround themselves with people who have lost. Because what they can teach them is don't make these mistakes. And when they teach you and they talk to you about those mistakes, listen. What is it Maya Angelou says? If someone shows you who they are in the beginning, believe them. If you have a politician, someone that's ran for office that loses and they're giving you advice, listen. Because it probably costs them a lot of money. And it probably costs them a lot of friends and time to get to that space where they're willing to give you that 2 cents of advice that you should probably pay attention to. The exciting thing is we have our obviously president-elect is going to be here on Friday. At 4 o'clock is when the gates open. I encourage people to get in line earlier than that because it gets a little crazy. We also know that he's going on at 7 o'clock. Governor Mike Pence, Vice President-elect Pence will be here as well as Reese Priebus, who is now his chief of staff in the White House. So we have a full wonderful venue of opportunities for people. Go to donaldtrump.com, go to schedule, click on Orlando, get your tickets. They're free. It's going to be a great event.
Thank you so much for your time and for your passion, because